Shut up and sit down.
And welcome to the Week 15 and Thanksgiving edition of the BlackSwarm podcast. Tank Piper with Rob Antonell. 31-6 win over Green and our 16th regional championship under our belt. Rob, what'd you think of the game?
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good game. Came out strong, did exactly what we needed to do, just ran right at him all night. I was pretty happy with the performance. Obviously, I was upset that we ended up giving up points, but, the backups were in, and it happens. But would have been really nice for it to be a shutout. But, we went in, dominated the entire game, had a few mishaps, but still a pretty good performance, dominating win. Happy about it.
Still a couple dumb penalties. The one real early in the game when we made a tackle out of bounds and kid just headbutts their guy coming off the field or coming back onto the field. You don't.
Yeah, but you said that's okay.
No, I like.
You said it's good for us.
I like shit talking. I don't like dumb stuff like that. That's not shit talking. That's being stupid. There is a very discernible difference there. All right. Other than that, I think we had a pretty clean game penalty-wise. A couple bad ones at the end. A ghost pass interference against our second-string guys. And was it unnecessary roughness? The one before that where the kid just went up to get it and our defender went up and made a tackle on a guy in the air?
Yeah, I think that was the call. I don't understand what the call really was, but, the guy was in the air. He had already made contact with the ball, and you hit him. I don't know what they want you to do. Wait for him to land, and catch him in midair, put him on his feet, and then let him try to run again. It is what it is. Once you touch the ball, it's fair game. We didn't hit you in the head or anything. So is it kind of a dangerous play? Yeah, but is it a play that you can really avoid? Not really. You make a play on the player. As soon as he touches the ball, you hit him. That's football.
Yeah, if you're trying to get rid of hurdling because it's a dangerous play, then you'd also, in that same vein of the spirit of that rule, want to have to get rid of receivers jumping up to make a catch, I guess. And, he got up there, good for him, and our defender made a play. It's a good football play, and for that to be there kind of at the end, just dumb shit on the referee's part. I don't even know what they were trying to go for there, but it is what it is. But yeah, to your point about when the starters were in, we ran 45 times for 325 yards, a nice 7.2 yards per clip. Our run game was going all night. Yeah, we put it on the ground a couple times. I missed the first fumble. The second one was Big Mike going into the end zone trying to make a play, trying to score. I think that's just doing a little too much. I couldn't see it from our end. I don't know if he reached out for it or what, but you can't be giving them the ball back in a position like that. You never want to put the ball on the ground in the first place, but that's probably the worst place to do it if you could, pick and choose when it would or wouldn't happen. But other than that, real clean, dominant performance on the ground. We only threw the ball 4 times, and frankly, I don't think we needed to do it all. You brought it up right before we tossed that first one, trying to go for the Paul Brown there of, getting through a game without even attempting a pass in the first place, but that would have been cool to see. But, it's late in the postseason. You want to get those reps in against live fire. Defensively, while the starters were still in, we held them to negative 12 yards on the ground after 12 rushing attempts, 5 of 24 for passing for 57 yards. We were defense just suffocated Green, and it didn't seem like there was a damn thing that they could do about it. A couple big special teams plays as well. The blocked punt by Bond, which we got back deep in their territory, and then towards the end there, the fake punt where Sean got, I think, like 50 yards on that with all the second stringers in. There were some people kind of unhappy about that, but hey, it's a good play. You got to defend it. You can't just assume we're going to punt it away. It is what it is. I think, and that's another, feather in the cap for special teams when you have a really good offense and a really good defense like we do. And if you want to get to where we think we can go, you're going to face other teams that have a really good offense and a really good defense. And special teams is really where you can start separating who's the goods from the greats.
Yeah, I mean, the timing of the fake punt was kind of late. It was late in the game. We didn't need it, but at the same time, I think Green probably should have went for a few fake punts or went for it on fourth, going in that direction. I mean, that was into the wind. Instead of kicking a 15-yard punt, what's the risk in just going for it? So I don't understand why they even bothered kicking into the wind anyway. If you get into fourth and anywhere near manageable, or even once you're down 10 points, I'm probably going for it in those situations because you weren't kicking into that wind. The punts weren't going anywhere. At the same time, we started off the game with two returners back there on punt. We ended up switching to just one returner, which I kind of liked because we weren't going to field those punts anyway that were going into the wind. So, I mean, I wouldn't have been mad if we didn't put any returners back there. Go for a block or, just play a super conservative, safe defense, I guess, which you could still put somebody back there. But I mean, I probably would have went for some blocks because they had a pretty slow operation, and we ended up blocking one at the end of the game, kind of incidentally, just because their punter took so damn long to kick the ball. He'd look, check see if anybody's rushing, look around again, look at his watch, and then kick the ball. So I mean, I'm surprised we didn't block more just on accident, but I would have went after him, especially going into that win. So we went for a fake punt. Other teams see it on film. We got a live rep of it. So I mean, it's good practice for us. It's good film for other teams to have to prepare for. And what were we going to get out of that anyway? Best case scenario, you get a 20-yard punt out of it. So I don't see what the point of even punting was going that direction to begin with anyway.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, I think the thought there is, hey, we already got our second stringers in. Let's just punt it, kind of try and hold them, and game's gonna run out. Well, that would be the general thought, but by that point, with the backups in, Green's thinking, okay, let's get down, let's score as much as we can on these guys. No, we're not gonna win, but you look back on this year, 2, 5 years from now, it's not going to look like as bad of an ass kicking as it actually was. So I think just at the end there, they were trying to save face a little bit. And we weren't trying to run up the score or anything, but we did have a point to prove going into that game, and I think we proved it pretty well. And yeah, to your point about kicking into the wind, it seemed like anytime that ball got more than 15, 20 feet in the air, it looked like it just hit a wall and it died. The best punts they had all night weren't from the punt itself, but from hitting the ground, 15 yards in front of our returners and then rolling, and their punt team would just be down there before we could get up and stop it. So conditions like that, I don't hate the idea of just going an 11-man punt block, but with that's not something you can necessarily practice. It's kind of like that one kickoff we had where the ball got up there and it just died at like the 25 and fell right in front of our kickoff coverage. You'd love to say, hey, guys, go up and get that, but you can't practice that. That's just one of those like weird things in football that would have been cool, but it is what it is. But beyond that, that's all I really got for this game. Anything else, Rob?
No, not necessarily.
So with that, we'll just keep it moving right on into film. All right, starting off with just a little game recap from Huddle themselves. Going to be pretty much nothing but run plays, because that's really all we had to do.
Shame on Green's offensive coordinator for running the ball at all. I don't think they I don't know if they gained a yard in any single one of their runs.
Maybe one or two, three at the most, but it was just they had literally nothing going on the ground. I thought they came out like, first play, little play action with the pulling guard, hit a crosser over the middle. I'm like, okay, we got something here. Not something that you see a lot from them, I don't think. And then just any attempts to run the ball at all were totally just nothing going. So pretty polar opposite from our end, because they couldn't stop it. It like a little over 7 yards per play running it, and not a lot of that came from the big runs. It was just we could almost, I think at one point it seemed like we were getting a first down every run. But here we start off, this might have been our first or second play of the game, come out in that empty package, but here it's a little bit different. We haven't run trips much from it this year, much less with our fullback opposite trips. And just a little power left into the boundary where Owens takes it out the back door. And gets a bunch of yards out of it because he's a dude. Later, same drive, come out in our jumbo package on 3rd and 5 and ride it up the middle. Pretty nice little fuck you call. Whole lot of double fullback stuff. Nice, mean. Just a mean run. Now, this right here, this is the Big Mike running that I have been pounding on the table for all year. Doesn't try and bounce it, just takes it right up the middle, drags dudes with him, touchdown. Just a little power with the backside read. This is one of those, we try and get Owens, or we don't try, we do get Owens involved in the run game quite a bit as the primary ball carrier. But plays like this, you're not drawing up power to a double fullback side with the idea of your quarterback taking it out the backside alley. This is one of those constraints of we can start reading everything on the backside now. And it's not, that's not the meat of the play. That's not what you're going for. But if a defense wants to overplay it, then we have this that we can hurt you with. It's the same thing with the tag screens, with the backside hitches, any of our RPOs. The idea here is to run power right at you. But if you're going to overplay that, we have different ways to make you pay for it. And just so you kind of get an idea of what Owens is looking at, you got the defender down here, the defensive end over our right tackle, just tries to squeeze him down the line, doesn't pop out, not out there really defending grass. They don't have any backside alley player. This is prime pull and pick up some big yards look from the defense. One of our 4 passing plays we ran all night. This is basically the same concept, what we scored on against McKinley, picking up that big 2nd and more than forever against St. John's. Ran it here and there otherwise, but you get the jet sweep. action, just trying to fake the run, sucking up the safeties because it's a staple run look that we give. Where you have Tolles, brain is just fried today. Tolles running the big post on the backside, and then you got a couple crossers coming from over the middle. So it's just a nice, easy post, crosser, flat route read. Really good complementary play for our offense. And Rob, feel free to chime in at any point because I'm getting tired of listening to myself.
Hey, me too. I mean, he had two guys open there. You know, he elected to go for the further pass, the post, rather than the crosser. You can see the crosser's open earlier, but, you know, he probably noticed that the middle of the field was going to open up as well. So ends up throwing the post. Not a great ball, but I think that was his first throw of the night. And, you know, Carter goes down and makes a good catch. So good play, but it's the concept really that we're looking at more than the execution here because this is something that can work later on. It can work this week and work next week and can work next year. So I like the concept here, especially if you're going to get them to bite on the run really hard. So I like everything about it. I would have liked a better throw here, but again, this is the second quarter. I think towards the end of the second quarter even.
Yeah.
And this was the first time he threw a ball since warm-up. So, you know, not mad about it. But I like the concept and definitely something the teams have to prepare for.
Yeah. You know, like you said, the more shallow crosser down here on the 20, he is wide ass open, but I don't think that's part of his read. I think the way the read would go is you're trying to hit that big post. You're going for the big play first. And you could see with the safety inside, who is just completely bailed on anything else. He's turning his back. He's running, sprinting to cover that post. Your eyes, the quarterback's eyes, are going to take him to the next receiver in the picture, which is that deeper crosser. If they manage to cover that up too, then yeah, he's probably coming down to that shallow crosser right there over the middle. But that's just kind of how you build, you know, a progression in a passing play of, okay, here's my first read, and then you want it to be as easy on the quarterback as possible. Kind of like, it's almost like you're reading a book, basically, like 1 to 2 to 3, just scanning the entire way. You know, you see a lot of NFL type concepts where it's, okay, I'm looking over this side first, then back this side, and if that's covered up, then I'm coming back over here. You just want to make it as easy as just sweeping. You just want your eyes to sweep, essentially, and you want the route concepts to come into the picture for the quarterback. Just make it as easy as possible, essentially. Nice interception. I mean, good defense by Liebs, getting on his back. Just trailing him the entire time. That's a tough route to cover, being in kind of a trail technique for a crosser like that. Remember watching it live, and I thought his, you know, best case scenario is he gets on his back for a pass breakup, get a little bit of that turnover luck, ball bounces right to our safety's hands. Hack makes a good return. I do like the concept, though. So very similar, just play action look, pulling a guard, trying to get the defense to bite up on it, pull out the linebackers. And they run an inside post with the slot guy, which clears out all that empty space for the crosser coming over the middle. Whole lot of room to work with if he can get the ball there, but ball didn't get to the there that quarterback really wanted it to. Here, just good old power read, except for running it out of our base personnel rather than empty, which we've been spamming the entire time. You can see the end just bite down hard inside. Easy read for the one, hands it off. Running back does a good job getting up inside on the alley, making a block, which really springs open the lane for a jock to turn it up into. I want to say like 80% of their final yards came once our backups got in there. And I'm pretty sure this is right. Hold them to 2-9 on third down. We were 8 for 12. That is a winning football model right there. So with that, only have one more highlight from the green game, and that would be our boy Chase Bond. Here, nice blitz to free up. So you see 41, Sean, our Mike linebacker, playing for an injured Pringle. Shows blitz, pops back out like he's in coverage. And you just have Bond knife inside because that tackle's probably playing man up on Bond, so he's not going to be sliding out for anybody, which frees up Sean to really come with the free rush off the edge. But doesn't matter because Bond beats the tackle inside anyway. I'd almost say that's like a fake spin move he went for if it didn't just kind of end up working out for him.
Oh. I'd almost say that he was trying to like spin back into his gap, but then the quarterback bounced it outside anyway, so I don't know.
I mean, he does a good job recovering and getting out there for the QB. Oof. I actually didn't notice Big Mike just getting up in there immediately off the ball. Good job by the guard to save the play, but that's why QB bails. Also, why against good teams, why you have to pick and choose when you want to use that inside rush move very sparingly, because this picture against, a faster quarterback, a better tackle, that quarterback can immediately turn up, get the edge, whatever, and you got nobody outside. This is when you hear guys talking about rush lane integrity, why you have guys rushing. He's the outside contain guy. His job is to not let, the quarterback get outside of him. So when he takes that inside, tries to go for that inside move with the spin inside, it might work and beat the tackle, but you just gave the quarterback a whole lot of grass to escape outside to. Now, unfortunately for Green, we just have much better athletes than they do. Didn't matter. He gets out there, and it is what it is. Here's the block punt. Punter just taking forever. So, that's all we got for the green game. Any final words before we turn the page?
No. You can go ahead and Bob Seger this on to the next one.
All right. So, we got Cincinnati Anderson up next. Got a couple other guys here. Really, their offense, I think, is the big talking point. But starting off with TJ Nelson, their free safety, and kind of get a look at the entirety of the defense as well with this tape. This is just from his most of the regular season. He's been hurt for the last couple weeks. May or may not play, not sure, but he's one of their best guys. You have to prepare like he's going to play, and it's also a good way to just check out the rest of their defense.
Looks like a pretty good player.
Yeah, I only watched through this
I think
once before as I was recording, and he seemed like very, very good instincts, was always kind of knew where the ball was going, had a step or two on it before the ball got there.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like a pretty good player. I think they might have him a little out of position, though.
Where do you like him as?
More down into the box. I mean, all of his highlights so far, he's just been staring in the backfield.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, receivers could have ran by him at any point in time because he's just kind of looking to see what's happening. Every now and then, he'll lock eyes with a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, that could be just the coverage that they're running or the team that they're playing, how much he respects them. But he seems more of like a hybrid type of player. Get him down around the box. He can do a little bit of everything. I mean, you can tell that he's a good player, good athlete. He's got good size. He wants to go make a play. But because of that, I think he's kind of lost the ability to cover the guy a few of these times.
Gotcha.
I mean, I think you could run by him or like any double move.
Mm-hmm.
But there's times like this one he started off with his eye. Sometimes he'll lock right onto the receiver, and you can tell he's basically running man from here. And then there's other times where he's just chopping his feet, looking in the backfield. He doesn't really care what the receiver's doing. So, um, I mean, that's probably the last place I would ever have him lined up. Is right there. I mean, it's 3rd and 10, so I get it.
Yeah.
But you had him 15, 20 yards downfield.
Yeah, just kind of going through it. I mean, they base out of two high quarters defense, and I did see him playing as when they went cover 3 as that rotated down strong safety and free safety. So I don't know if it's necessarily trying to put him in the best position, trying to give the offense different looks, like, hey, we can rotate in and out of this or that, breaking up tendencies or what. But yeah, now that you say that, he does have a lot of that eyes caught in the backfield look to him. Now with that, they've been running up the score on a lot of these teams, and I don't know how much that's just, are they playing an inferior opponent or what, where you see a lot of like really good teams can get away with cheating like that. So
Yeah, I mean, he's the one that has been injured. We're not sure if he's back yet or not, right?
correct.
But I mean, he looks like a pretty good player. You can tell he's really loose out there. He's really confident, um, and he's got good size to him. I mean, we'll get to the roster later, but he looks like a pretty big kid. Just I would have him around the box as much as possible. Like when I do go cover 3, he's my roll down guy
Mm-hmm.
because unless we're going up against a team that like really likes to air it out deep. Um, I don't see the point of having him as your deep free safety. I want him around where the play is more likely to happen. Now, if you're playing the team that's throwing a lot of four verts, a lot of deep balls, you can have him back there, Ed reading it sideline to sideline, trying to go make a play. But against most teams where the play is going to happen within 3, 5, 8 yards of the line of scrimmage, that's where I want him to be. So looks like a good player, but we don't know the status of his injury. But yeah, I mean, definitely a solid player.
Yeah, no, I agree with you pretty much on all accounts. The one thing I would say is offense or defense, you don't want to have too many. You don't want to really have any strong tendencies that you can't play off of. And with their base quarters coverage, you're going to have aggressive safeties ready to come up and play the run. Now, would I want a guy to always be roll down in the box guy from going cover 3? If that's what he's suited for, I'm going to ask him to do it like 98% of the time. Was every one of his snaps that we saw here at free safety, like literally the only snaps he showed at free safety, just as tendency breakers or given a different look for the offense? I'd hope so, because I pretty much agree with your sentiment of he does seem to be a much better down near the box player. So we'll keep it moving right along. This is their starting tight end / starting nose tackle, which is one hell of a position combination that I don't think I've ever seen before. So just as a quick preview in their offense, they're very formationally dense. They run a lot of different stuff, but they never substitute. So they'll, show all 11 guys in the box one play, show 5 wide the next, and they haven't substituted anybody. That's kind of the name of their game. So with that, their tight end, they move him around a lot. He's actually a big target for a lot of their screens, which is not something you normally see out of a big body guy like that. So we'll see a little bit of offense and defense from this guy.
Yeah, so I mean, he's a big body target. Looks like he knows what he's doing out there, but not the most athletic guy in the world. Which, I mean, if he's their starting defensive lineman, you wouldn't expect him to be the most athletic guy in the world. So, uh, kind of interesting on how this team in green decided to line up against some of these formations. But you got an idea of what they do offensively from it.
Yeah, I like the fact that you danced around that he doesn't necessarily look like an athlete with the ball in his hands or on offense in general, because I think it wasn't this play, but the next one where he runs a slant route, he just looks so like gangly and unnatural.
Yeah.
Running, catching, anything. I mean, it works for him, I guess. Like, they keep using him there. Teams aren't stopping it, but there's nothing about this play right here that screams athlete to me. If anything, he looks like he, went to bed one night about my size, and the next morning he woke up 6'5". It just doesn't know what to do with any of it. So with that, last highlight we got is going to be their starting running back. And this is all from, I think, their game 2 games ago. And the one thing I can't keep my eyes off of is their extra wide splits by the linemen. I mean, you could ride a bike through those splits.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a pretty decent player. I mean, a lot of the skill players are very talented.
Yeah,
They got
no, they have athletes out there for sure.
more than a couple D1 offers amongst them.
QB ain't bad. I mean, he's been already a couple times on the running back highlights. Play's not there initially. Does a good job scrambling, running around, making a play. But my God, just look at those lineman splits. That is insane.
Yeah, but with that, you see how hard it was for that right tackle to even get hands on the defensive lineman here.
Yeah.
Barely touches him, almost blows the whole play up because of it. I mean, our defensive line is going to get a lot of one-on-ones, and it should be tough for. I mean, if they try to do any like double teams up the line, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like they're creating space, but at the same time, they're also making their job harder. So it's easier for them to get beat, but they could open up a crease just from the spacing that they have. But our defensive linemen are going to have a lot of one-on-ones, and they're going to have a lot of easy angles to attack the linemen trying to block them. So it'll be interesting to see how they're able to hold up against our front seven.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
I would be surprised if we let them let that quarterback kind of dance around and go through his progression as much as some of these other teams have.
I'm right there with you. This is a couple weeks ago, so obviously they're playing kind of a much lower seeded opponent, but I do like what they're trying to do here. Rather than having your defensive lineman mindlessly line up on their offensive guy like you're taught to do your entire life, just straight up put them right in the gaps and then make the offensive lineman chase you and make the job so much harder on them, like you said.
So what I thought was interesting, I read earlier today, reading a little bit of information about them, that they're almost 50-50 run to pass. And I thought that they're a heavy passing team,
Mm-hmm.
which they are, but they also run it a lot. I mean, the actual snaps were about 50-50 run to pass this year for them.
Now, with that, this is where the numbers get, I want to say misconstrued a little bit, just with RPOs. Because, not to go too deep into it, but, most RPOs you're going to see, it's a run play with just a little tag screen or a bubble screen outside of it. So the play can be, you can call it like run, 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 but what might show up on the play sheet is run, pass, 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 that kind of thing. And I say that because probably their biggest pass plays or their most heavy volume pass plays just are those bubbles, those tag screens, those and even a little bit of tunnel and halfback screens in there too. They're not really pushing the ball down the field. They're not dropping back, half the time. It's going to look a lot like us.
So you're saying they're even more of a run heavy team than the numbers might say.
Yes.
Okay. See, like I just thought from what I was hearing that they were like a 90% pass team. Like I thought it was like green again. And then I saw that their plays were almost 50-50. I was like, "Oh, wow, that's good. I mean, impressive." I thought it was going to be another, five wide, no runs kind of team, but so they're actually more run than pass, essentially, is what you're saying.
Pretty much. I mean, I would say they're in the same kind of category as we are, as Maslin is, of we are calling, we're calling power probably about 65, 70% of the time. and maybe 20 to 30% of that is going to be the pass, the tag screen out wide, or the backside hitch. So it's kind of that thing of like coverage of football and statistics and tendency breakdowns. With the proliferation of the RPO, it's gotten a little muddied because of that. I mean, you can kind of see it here. You know, the old school run play, quarterback hands it off and boots out to keep the defense honest. Watch the quarterback after every handoff. He's faking the throw out wide, the tag screen. That's the new, quote-unquote boot action to give the defense something else to look at, something to worry about. So that's all we got for them. Any final thoughts on their film before we dive into the roster?
No, not the film.
All right, so with that, we'll get out of here and really dig in to the Anderson Raptors. I think they are. All right, now to dig into the Anderson Raptors, coming in at 13-1. They are a high-flying offense. They've put up at least 40 points in all but 3 games. One of them was a loss to the 11-1 Milford, whatever a Milford is. The other ones, they won 20-13 against an 8-4 Winton Woods, and a 31-7 win against a 3-8 Cincinnati Turpin. So, high-flying offense, put up a lot of points. Not the greatest defense. They have given up plenty of points. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games where they've given up 20 plus. Only pitched a shutout against Walnut Hills where they beat them 51-0. So, a lot of skill on both sides of the ball, but they like to play fast, score a lot of points. That's kind of the name of their game. So with that, let's take a look at the roster, Rob.
Yeah, so starting up front, the offense line is not very big. 6'2", 230, 6'2", 215, 5'10", 200, 6'2", 240, 6'2", 225. I mean, they're not big, and they kind of play like their size. It's definitely not the strongest point of their team. They have those wide splits, like you said. I don't know if that helps them or hurts them, but they're not real big. So I think our defensive line should be able to handle them plenty fine. As long as we're able to understand the scheme that they're coming at us with, the tempo. They run plays really, really quick. They're trying to run as many plays as they can in the game. They don't substitute, like you said. So, I mean, it's going to go quick. So our defensive line in particular is going to have to be in shape and ready for this game and ready to go because, we're going to try to wear down on them. They do have some players that go both ways. So I imagine we're going to try to lean on them, wear them down as well. But as long as we're up to the task of going against their scheme, I think we're going to win up front. That shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the roster, like you said, a very undersized offensive line for what you would expect at this point in the season. Like, biggest guy's 245 pounds. The rest of the line, 230, 215. This is a tiny offensive line. And I think that's kind of why they use those wide splits like they do. That proliferated a little bit in the air raid systems back in like the mid to late 2000s, where you'd have these ultra wide splits, spread out the defense a little more, make it a little bit easier to crease the defense inside, but predominantly you're looking for those, giving those one-on-one matchups for your offensive line. With that as well, with those wider gaps, you're cheating in a way to extend the edges as well. You're making that hoop that the defense has to run a little bit longer. You're making the blitz paths that guys want to take a little bit farther. If a defense wants to blitz, they're either going to have to show it sooner or it's going to take an extra step or two to hit home because of how much farther those guys have to run. Now, with that, I guess it's worked for them up to this point, but I've never really seen a team rely this much on gap scheme that uses these ultra wide splits. If anything, when you see pulling linemen and those linemen cheating alignments, they're generally getting closer to the guy next to them, closer to where they're pulling to get them to their spot quicker. So with that, you kind of see these run plays take a little bit longer to develop. And it just kind of dawned on me as well with that, as it's taking longer for the run blocking to develop, the quarterback running back mesh is taking longer, which means the quarterback has a little bit longer of a time frame to read out his RPOs. It's not necessarily just a pre-snap decision anymore. It's, okay, I can ride this out, ride it, and I can really eye on my defender, the alley guy, the Sam, Mike, Will linebacker, whoever it may be, see if they bite in too hard that I can just pull it and toss it out on a tag screen and pick up some cheap yards. And I think that's really where a lot of their passing yards come from, is being able to do that. Now, the other side of that coin is you are giving your offensive linemen a bunch of one-on-ones, and we have nothing but stud defensive linemen up front. How long is that center going to last one-on-one with Big Mike? How long is that tackle going to last with Chase Bond just crushing the edge all night there? It's a double-edged sword, and I think this might be the game where it comes back to bite him a little bit. Now, with that, my last thought on the offensive line is just looking at the names. It's the quintessential offensive line roster. There is nothing that stands out about this group. It's just a bunch of lunch pail guys. They come in, they do their job, get no glory, and that's an offensive line right there if I've ever seen one, name-wise.
Their quarterback is junior, 6', 175. Decent scrambler, decent throwers. Got throws an accurate ball, gets the ball out quick. You saw some of it on the highlights. Kind of seems like he has a pretty decent control over everything that's going on in that offense. Understands it pretty well. Can go through his progressions. Was able to find some pretty wide open receivers on the highlights that we saw. But threw a decent ball, and I think he understands what's going on there. It's RPO, reads, get the ball out quick.
Yeah, you pretty much summed it up there.
So we get into their skill guys. That's where it starts to get a little bit more impressive. Their running back is a senior, 6'2", 210, but like we showed earlier, he'll line up at receiver. They move him around. Pretty good player. Let's see here. The receivers, 6'5", 240, 5'10", 180, 6'2", 185, 6', 190. And then, let's see here. Is that the same guy? Just listed? No. Tight end fullback, 6'5", 235, 6'5", 240. So some of these guys are going to be going both ways. That tight end, we looked at him. He's a West Virginia commit. He's a senior. So he's going to be going both ways. And yeah, I imagine that we're going to lean on him quite a bit with our run game when we go at him. So, how is his endurance going to be when he has to deal with, double team blocks all day and then line up on the outside and do a high tempo offense as well? So, I'm sure he's used to it by now, but, I think we're definitely going to try to exploit that. Just looking at their skill guys in general, we got the West Virginia commit. We have a Miami of Ohio commit. We got a Bowling Green commit. He's the one that we're not sure if he's healthy or not. He's been injured. He's been out for a little while, but they're free safety, but he'll play offense as well. So, they got a slew of talent there. They got a little bit of size, 6'5", 6'2", 5'10", another 6'5" guy. So, the talent, the skill players that's going to be the heart of their team. They try to run up the score. They're not designed to try to slow the game down and stop a team in a slugfest. They're going to try to outscore us. That's what they try to do every single week. And, now that I realize that they're a little bit heavier of a running team than I thought, it's a little bit surprising to me. I thought they were kind of a more pass-happy team. I thought they wanted to sling it around. Their roster seemed like it made more sense for that. And from what I was hearing from some other people, that's what I thought. But now if they really are that more run heavy team. Still very, very, very balanced. On paper, it's about 50-50. I think they passed it just a little bit more than ran it, but I have a higher confidence for it now than I did going into it. So I think we're going to shut that run game down, and we're going to force them to try to open up their pass game probably a little bit more than they have so far this year.
Yeah, just kind of an overall bird's eye view of their offense. Like we said before, they don't really substitute much at all. They have their 11 guys, they roll out there, and they will formation the fuck out of you. And they also like to move very, very quickly. They average, I think it's well under 20 seconds a play. And with that, words are hard. With that, your defense is, going to be playing a lot more snaps a lot more quickly than you're used to. So they try and out-leverage you via formation, throw funky stuff at you. It's, hey, we're going to line up, 4 guys on one side of the field, and you have to figure out how to line up to that in, 10 to 15 seconds before that ball snapped. So it's a hell of an offense to defend, and it works for them. With that as well, they have a lot of constraint plays that work off stuff that they like to do. In the highlights, we saw a play action boot, throwback wheel to the running back, saw a fake tunnel screen and go, saw a fake bubble slant. They have a lot of fakes off of their base plays, and it's very complimentary. It's not difficult to install, so it's a little bit easier for them to learn, and the more they do it, which is a lot, the better they're going to be at it. And when you're a very instinctive defense like we are, that's something that can bite you in the ass of, come up, play this screen, super aggressive, and suddenly, oh, nope, that guy that you thought was trying to block you that you slipped past, he's actually running a stalk and go, and you turn around and you're looking at him walking for 6 points. So going to have to play very fundamentally sound and at a much quicker pace than really we've seen all year.
Yeah, definitely gonna be a challenge for our defense, but like we both just kind of said, I think that the challenge is going to be lining up correctly, playing fast, keeping your endurance up. I think schematically what we're going against, the plays that they're running, the personnel that they have, I don't think that's anything that we can't match up with. So as long as we're up for it, I think that we should be able to handle their offense, slow them down a little bit more than some other teams have. So, I'm excited to see it, but at the same time, I hope that, I know we're practicing for it, but it's going to be a different thing when you're actually out there on Friday, right? If you're Big Mike and you see, splits bigger than you've ever seen in your entire life, how much energy do you expend on those first 2-3 plays because you think you can get home, and then it's a quick tag screen, and now you're completely out of energy because you just burned yourself out, and we can't sub because they're not going to give us the opportunity to. So it's that fine balance of, I know I'm going to win a lot of these contests. I'm going to beat the guy in front of me. But at the same time, I can't completely burn myself out if this turns into an 8-9 play drive that I'm just a dead body now. So also with that, hopefully we can conserve our timeouts. Not something that we've really had any issues with this year that I can think of, but you just don't want to waste any timeouts. So definitely important for that. So, play smart, play hard, and I think our guys should be up to the challenge physically.
Yeah. Like you said, it's something that we've never seen before defensively. It's going to be a challenge. And yeah, timeouts, this is a time where you're not necessarily looking to use them to conserve time on a 2-minute drive right before the end of a half. This is one of those games you never want to burn one because you can't get a substitution right. This is one of those, the offense hits you for a quick little 4, 5, 6 plays that gets some momentum going. This is where I call it the basketball timeout comes into play, where you just try and use that timeout, slow it down, kill whatever momentum they have, give your defensive guys a break. And with that, we talk about before on the show of how we kind of like the funky little bullshit. if you see outside of either 2 minutes, a defensive guy go down with, is that a cramp? Does he get hit a little too hard? Injuries happen, and if you go down, one of the kind of upsides of that is you get a free timeout out of it. So just a little bullshit that might be at least slightly useful to throw into the game plan a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point, you don't have time to, shake it off if something happens to you between plays this week. Normally, you roll your ankle just a little bit or you land funky and your wrist kind of bends. You can stand up, kind of shake it off, do grin and bear it, and okay. I mean, all right, we'll get there. Like, give me a play. Like, I'll be back. Like, they're going so up tempo. You don't have time. So, I mean, if you do get banged up a little bit, like, legitimately the best thing is to probably stay down and, take an injury timeout for it because, you don't have time to shake it off here. No harm in stopping the game because, you got piled up on. I mean, it's going to happen. Same thing with, like, equipment timeouts. If your jersey comes down over your shoulder pad, something weird happens, like, you're not going to have time for the guy next to you to, fix it for you. You're going to have to come out of the game, and I don't really know what the policy is on equipment timeouts, but, I mean, if there's something going on with your equipment, I mean, I guess you could just take your helmet off. Is that a defensive delay a game if you just take your helmet off? I mean, they can't snap the ball with your helmet off. They're going to make you come off the field, but while they're escorting you off the field, that's like a free substitution, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know in the NFL you can't take your helmet off like after a play for a celebration if something's legitimately screwed up. If your chin strap got messed up, mouthpiece, I don't know how many of them actually like wear it on their face mask anymore, but if it gets tangled up somehow, if it's funky, that refs have to stop the game. I mean, it's not like you said, you can't play with your helmet off, so
just little gamesmanship. Yeah, just like, hey ref, is this buckle? Like, this buckle seems like it's not snapping. Can you help me? It's like, I'm not gonna help you. Just go to the sideline. Okay. Will you walk me to the sideline, please?
Yeah, this is not the time to be a hero or a tough guy and grit it out. If you get hurt or something, you get a little banged up, there is no shame in taking that free injury timeout to get off the field, get some water, get a breather, get back in there, and this is the time for that gamesmanship.
Yeah, I mean, with that said, you don't know when you're going to come back in, though, if you come out. I mean, if you come out, you might be out for another 5, 6, 7 plays, like, until another equipment mishap happens. So, I mean, you don't want to just take yourself out of the game if you don't have to, but, there are times where it could come to our advantage to, kind of take an on-the-field timeout.
So this just occurred to me. How much is 5 yards worth versus making a substitution in a situation like that? Where if, as a defender, if I just, we need to get somebody off the field, get a substitution in, if we line up and I just jump off sides, stoppage of play, you can make the substitution then and there, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's probably very specific situations where that would happen. Let's say they just busted off a big play and they're down on the 1. Well, you might want to get a different defense out there for a goal line. And in that case, like, oh, yeah, we'll give you an extra half of a yard because of a penalty in order to substitute. But, you're probably not doing it on 3rd and 1.
Well, no. I mean, again, there are very...
So, I mean, yeah, no, but, I mean, that's to the gamesmanship. If you're trying to get a substitution in, like, and is 5 yards... How much does 5 yards hurt you?
It's like going back to the Ohio State Notre Dame game where the defense only had 10 guys on the field and they didn't want to run a guy out to give Ohio State, guys running out there, Ohio State snaps the ball, they get a free play essentially. So they installed after that just a little signal to the cornerback closest to Notre Dame sideline of just, hey, reach out and touch the wide receiver. You have to stop the play because it's defensive offsides, but like you said, they're getting, a couple inches on the thing, and you get to make the substitution. Little shit like that, that's again, that's how you separate the goods from the greats, having your football situational awareness and having plans for all those little funky situations you can face in any particular game.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, that's not really something that's ever been, up our sleeves that we've done in the past, but uh, like you said, the great teams always have some kind of preparation for emergency situations where they need to do something like that. So, I don't know if we do. I mean, we might have just had like something in all year, for a very specific situation, but I don't know if we're adding anything this week. I mean, I think we'll be able to handle them, but again, we haven't played an up-tempo team like this all year. I mean, maybe in a long time, not just this year. So it'll be interesting to see how we respond to it. You can try to practice it, but when you have a scout team that's not used to running it, it's kind of difficult to give a real look against your starting unit. So you can only replicate it so well. And then even then, you're doing it in practice in short bursts. You're not doing it for a full 48 minutes. So it'll be interesting to see how we respond, but at least we know what the task is ahead of time.
Now that you say that, I am actually interested to see how they practice the up-tempo stuff because, I mean, you remember back in the day, it's when you're on scout team offense, you're looking at the play call on a card, so it's a huddle every play.
Well, God, when we played our scout team, at least like my senior year, the scout team going against us was so horrible that it didn't matter. I mean, they couldn't do our own offense against us, let alone somebody else's offense. So you can draw it up on a card, but even then, I'm sure it's gotten better now just because of leadership. But I mean, back then you draw it up on a card, and then what? They run the play, they go back to the huddle, you show them a new card. How do you do that up tempo? I mean, it's a good question. I don't know if you have like two units running in back and forth. I mean, at that point, you're probably leaning on. I mean, you're going to get the speed that way, but now you have like your third, fourth, your second level of scout team guys going out there. So it's not going to be physically as good of a look, but at least you get the speed out of it. Or you like have them learn a couple plays in a row, which, they would have never been able to do that back when we played. But um, now, maybe they're, I'm sure they're coached up better, but, hopefully they can mentally do that to, learn 2 or 3 plays in a row. Like they're not going to be super difficult plays. So it's like, hey, we're just going to run this just really quick. Even if it's like our own offense, like, hey, we're going to run our own plays and we're just going to go really quick and see if the defense can get lined up. So yeah, I don't know exactly how they practiced it, but it's a tough task because you're taking players who are not your best players to begin with. They're usually younger, and you're trying to get them to do a system that they've never done before. So it's definitely not going to be a realistic scenario compared to playing Anderson, but you're trying to give as good of a look to your defense as possible, whether it's just tempo, like we're just going to go really fast and run our own plays, or really dumb down the plays, or if we run into units, or do we actually just sit down and run their plays as good as we can and not worry about the tempo? Do they do both individually? I don't know. Interesting concept. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you can ask a scout team to, learn to do all of that in a week. So it's definitely a tough ask, but I'm sure that there's plenty of different possibilities on how you can do it.
Yeah, I mean, being at Sideliners, that's where they give out the Scout Team Player of the Week awards, and those started off as like, 2 or 3 guys that really showed out on Scout Team, and by this point in the year, it's become half a dozen guys getting that award every week. So, we got Scout Team guys out there flying around, giving good looks on both sides of the ball. So, do we have a little more juice, in the second team and the Scout Team than we did when we played? Probably. Is it still a very tough ask of, juniors and sophomores that barely play in our system to learn an entirely new one and get out there and try and replicate that hurry-up, go-go offense like they have? That's pretty hard. And my last point is what you started off with about the Scout Team back when your senior year I want to take offense to that because I was out there on scout team a lot, but if I'm being completely honest, I can't spot the lie.
Who did you have lined up around you was my question. Like, we're going against linemen that were 130 pounds on scout team.
We had me and like 4 more younger me's. Wasn't great.
It was a very young scout team.
Yeah, it was definitely less than ideal for you guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, bringing back memories. Not many of them good, but it is what it is. So with that, we wanna take a look at their defense.
Yeah, sure. Kind of forgot that we didn't. So defensive line, again, I mean, their defensive line is not very big. 6'5", 220, 6'5", 240, 6'3", 195. So their nose tackle is the one that we talked about earlier, nose tackle / tight end. He's going to get worn down. I just can't imagine any scenario where he's in such good shape that he's going to run 80 plays on offense and be a nose tackle against our running attack all night. So he's their best player, though, on the defensive line. And then outside of that, 6'5", 220, 6'3", 190. So they're not the biggest guys in the world. And, in general, their defense is not known for being the toughest defense in the state either.
Yeah, they play a 3-4, kind of that traditional look where you have your ends head up on the tackles, your nose guards head up on the center, 2 inside backers, 2 outside backers. They base out of a cover 4 look, play a little bit of cover 3. They pick and choose when they blitz. They're not the most blitz-happy team, but if you get behind the chains, then they're going to start sending shit at you. So with that, they kind of base out of that rush 3, drop 8, but they'll stunt the defensive linemen, they'll slant them, they'll pinch, they'll play all sorts of games to give different looks with just 3 down guys rushing. So it'll be a little bit different, just like their offense. We haven't really seen a team like this all season as far as what they're trying to do schematically.
Getting into their linebackers, you got 2 juniors, a sophomore, and a freshman. 6'2", 190, 5'10", 170, 5'11", 170, 6'3", 205. So not a whole lot of size there either. It's their jack backer, who's a freshman, 6'3", 205. So he's the heaviest of the bunch, but at 6'3", it's kind of a slimmer frame. Their 2 inside linebackers are pretty decent players. They read their keys well. They can make tackles, but they're both 170 pounds, so they're probably not going to get up blocks very well, and they're probably not knocking our running backs backwards either.
Yeah, just looking at it, these are guys that aren't necessarily going to knock the pulling guard backwards off his path. This is something, if you get your lineman up to the second level, I would expect our linemen to win more often than not. My only other observation is their Sam linebacker, Owen Bergman. That is a perfect left guard name right there. So the fact that he's out there at Sam linebacker, I don't know, seems a bit of a mismatch for name position fit, but hey, it is what it is.
So their safeties, the 2 that have been playing lately are both seniors, and then that we showed a highlight of, who's a Bowling Green commit. He's also a senior, but we're not sure if he's back yet. So you got 6'2", 185, 6'2", 195, and then 6', 190 is that possibly injured player. But decent players there, and got a little bit more size than the linebackers have.
Yeah, makes sense. You're going to have guys in that cover 4 look coming up, playing the run a lot, so you want a little more beef at the safety position there. Their strong safety, number 22. I don't think I've seen a bigger name mismatch first and last in my life. You got Leo Muhlenkamp. Hell of a first name, last name combo right there. And then at 29, Patterson McHugh. I want to know the pronunciation of it because the spelling just looks like he was having a rough day anytime there was a substitute teacher in class.
I'm gonna guess it's McHugh. McHugh.
If we're playing the odds, yeah, that one's like minus 800, but that's boring. I want to trying to spice it up a little bit here.
M-Chug.
Yeah. M-Chug. We got
Patterson M-Chug.
Now, not to trust a guy with two first names, but where do we fall on a guy with two last names? Because Patterson is not a first name I've never seen in my life. Actually, it's not even two names. His first name's a last name, and his last name is a sound a cat makes when it's about to throw up.
Yeah. True. Good point. The corners, one is a freshman, 5'8", 150. The other one is a senior, 6 foot, 180. The freshman has an offer to Massachusetts, but he is also still a freshman. He's pretty speedy. I've seen that he's kind of jumped off the page a few times with his speed. And then the senior, obviously more experienced, but not really anything to write home about with his coverage ability.
Yeah, nothing really to write home about with his name either, but the other corner, the freshman, this is like a Hall of Fame name position combination for me. You got Ace Alston, rolls off the tongue. You got the alliteration. His first name's already a nickname, and it's like a skill guy nickname too. You don't see your fullback nicknamed Ace. So you got a corner out there, speedy guy, athlete, name's Ace. That is Hall of Fame level name position combo in my book.
Yeah, and hopefully he changes his number to number 1 next year after the current senior wearing number 1 is gone because, Ace is, you got to be number 1.
Yeah. Or that, you don't see a lot of corners number 0, but that would be a hell of a number for him to trot out there with. We got number 0, Ace Alston. That just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So, already kind of gave an overview of the defense. Like I said, 3-4, blitz, win, situation calls for it. A lot of drop 8, a lot of games with the defensive line. But beyond that, that's kind of all I got as a preview for them.
Yeah, that's all I got also.
So with that, we want to move right along into spreads.
Yep, let's do it. So we're starting off with a very important game to us. The most important game that besides our own. And it is Avon playing Hoban. And would you like to guess what the spread is?
So I feel like I'm cheating a little bit, and I wasn't out looking for it, but Reflog went out and he posted the spreads a couple days early for all the high school games.
So what you got to understand is that there's really 3 different spreads out there, right? There's the Worcester mathematician computer guy, and then there's the ones that Reflogs posts, and then there's the ones that we use. So they're usually not the same. I did look at the mathematicians. That was, I think, Friday night. As soon as all the games were decided, he posted the matchups. And, his are not betting spreads. They're like computer-generated outcomes of what he thinks is going to happen. So not exactly a betting spread, but same concept. And then I didn't look at Reflogs, but I can tell you that Reflogs do not always line up with the ones that we have.
So with Reflogs, the only ones that ever really stick in my head as far as comparing the two are Maslin's for his and the ones we go off of. And usually he's got Maslin a little bit 2, 3, 4 points higher than we do. I think he had this game at Hoban minus 10.5. So with that, I'm going to guess you got it Hoban minus 6.5.
The spread is Hoban 14.5.
Oh, opposite direction.
But there is a kind of a note with it.
Mhm.
I didn't know if I wanted to put this in question form or not, but I'll just say it. If Avon's quarterback was not hurt, this was a pick 'em.
Really? I mean, I get that. Your starting quarterback that got you there, he's probably worth a touchdown or two. But the fact that it's a pick 'em really speaks volumes on. I think that says a lot more about Hoban than it does Avon. Because Avon's, traditionally.
Yeah, I mean Avon's good this year.
I mean, I'm not taking away from Avon. They're traditionally one of those teams in the Final Four every year. But they just always seem to get out physicaled by Hoban. So with that, and plus, Hoban's offense has not been lights out this year. They've been kind of a grinded out. Obviously, they've put up a lot of points on certain teams, but when it gets to nut crunch time, especially like looking at the Eds game, they don't necessarily have the horses to put a lot of points on the board when it.
They didn't score anything against Eds.
So, golly, 14. I think I'm siding with the sharps that Reflog has. I'm taking Avon to cover, but no quarterback's tough. I'd take Hoban straight up.
Yeah, so I think that Hoban ends up winning the game. And I mean, I hope they don't, but I think that they will. And I think it's going to come down. I think the spread has more to do with what Hoban's offense is going to do, because I think Avon's offense is going to struggle quite a bit against Hoban. They're using a pretty young quarterback, I think, and he's going to have a difficult time going against Hoban's defense. So I think the spread has a lot more to do with what can Hoban do against Avon than what is Avon going to do against Hoban. Like last week, I picked Medina to cover against Eds. I think that one hit. Let me double check. But really, my reasoning for it was that I thought Medina would be able to score a couple points. Nope. They scored one touchdown, so they didn't cover. But my reasoning for why I picked St. Ed's last week is because I thought Medina would score one or two touchdowns, and if they could, they'd be able to cover the 25-point spread or something like that. And early in the game, it was tight, and then Ed's pulled away. But I think this one's the opposite, where I don't think Avon's going to score on Hoban, really. So how much can Hoban score on Avon? That's going to be my entire deciding factor on who I pick between that this week. But that was the most important game outside of our own. So let's move it down. And we got Hilliard Bradley going against St. Ed's. Ed's minus 29.5.
Golly. I don't know what a Hilliard Bradley is, but that's a lot of points to cover. Eds is going to dominate, but I don't think they cover 29.5 in a Final Four game.
So Hilliard Bradley's only loss of the year was in Week 10 when they played Dublin Kaufman. They lost 14-7. Dublin Kaufman is a team that McKinley beat 24-14.
Oh.
It's still 29.5 points.
That's a lot of points, but
they put up 40-some against Medina last week.
All right, I'm changing mine. Give me Eds. Eds covers comfortably.
Springfield playing Moeller. Moeller 16.5. Springfield is a 12 seed.
Oh, that's the 12 seed. Okay.
And they are the only double-digit seed still alive in the playoffs.
Usually I'm a fan of underdog stories, but I don't want to give OSHA any ammo for keeping the playoff as open as it is. I mean,
they won the region as a 12 seed.
I think they're more a case of a bad seeded team rather than an actual 12 seed. So I'm not giving OSHA this one. I don't care what argument they present me. This is not a 12 seed team to make it to the Final Four. With that, Moeller's Moeller, they cover.
Chardon against Toledo Central Catholic. Central Catholic 13.5.
TCC, defending state champs. They cover comfortably.
An interesting one because it's local and had some controversy around it. Canton South against Glenville. Glenville 19.5.
So this is the one that OSHA tried to put in the same stadium that had multiple games moved from it for safety concerns this season, right?
Yes, and it was at Euclid, and it was also 6 miles from Glenville and over 60 miles from Canton South. So after a barrage of phone calls, emails, and Facebook posts, they decided to move the game to Wadsworth.
So my main takeaway from that is OSHA will bow to public pressure if it is strong enough. So remember that, folks.
Twice. I mean, they changed the ticket pricing also.
Yeah.
Though ticket pricing is high this week. You get to the Final Four and now there's $16 tickets. There's just less teams. We got to raise the price now.
We got overhead to meet, which is still not even coming close to what the revenue's going to be. But hey, it's we gotta make money. I mean, protect the kids. With that, I think Glenville has a shot to do the damn thing this year. So I'm going to take them to cover.
Yeah, 19.5 is a lot of points, and Canton South has been on a hell of a run. They have a good offense, record-setting quarterback. But I think Glenville has players that Canton South has not even come close to competing against all year. I mean, Glenville has multiple Ohio State level guys, and Canton South has been playing not those types of guys. Also, Canton South struggled against Bookdale. And without watching the game, I think it was just more of a stylistic difference. Bookdale probably just has the athletes that Canton South is not used to going against. Canton South is playing a lot of open field, farm town areas, and so playing somebody like Bookdale was kind of a shock to them, I'm guessing. And then Glenville was just going to be an exaggerated version of Bookdale, except for they have much better players. So I think Canton South had a hell of a run, but it's sad to see that you're going to have to run into Glenville, who was once a Division I team like us when we played them in 2009.
Yeah.
In the Final Four.
So
we were both D1 teams, and now Glenville has dropped down to whatever Canton South is, 3, 4.
That's what I was about to ask. What are they now? Because that one didn't even occur to me. That didn't even click. Didn't they get hit with some penalties or something from OSHA? They got hit with a lot, and that
the Ted Ginn Academy finally got blown up for all the recruiting that they were doing. But then at the same time, it's back to happening again, and now they're celebrating Ted Ginn and how good of a person he is and everything. And I mean, he is, right? He's helping a lot of kids out, and it probably is good for the city when Glenville has their football academy going. But at the same time, you can't really penalize it, but then also celebrate it at the same time. So it's kind of some give and take there of, you're doing good for the community, but at the same time, your head coach runs a football academy and brings a whole bunch of kids from the greater Cleveland area to come play there. So I think Canton South struggles.
Yeah. OSHA talking out of both sides of the mouth there. What else is new?
Kettering Alter plays Steubenville. Steubenville 4.5.
I got to start picking against chalk. Give me whatever the hell a Kettering Alter is.
Garraway against Kirtland. Kirtland 7.5.
I'm going to keep my against chalk thing going here. Give me Garraway.
Oregon State at Oregon. Oregon 13.5.
I did see that the two schools worked it out, even though the Pac-12's dead and Oregon's going to the Big Ten, they are keeping the Civil War alive. With that said, I think Oregon State's been tough this year. Oregon's a lot tougher. I think it's going to be close for a while, but Oregon pulls away at the end. Oregon covers.
Texas A&M at LSU. LSU 11.5.
LSU has probably the future Heisman winner, if the voters want to be honest about it. Dude's putting up, video game numbers. Texas A&M, though, did just fire their head coach. So they're going to have that juice of having a interim head coach with, generally speaking, nothing to lose. A&M's in it for a while. LSU just overpowers them. LSU covers.
Yeah, I think LSU is a pretty darn good team. I just still don't like their head coach. So I think any time that it's going to come down to, a really big game, like LSU is going to end up faltering. But I think they can cover 11.5 against A&M at home. Bama 14.5 at Auburn.
Bama, obviously it's going to come down to the SEC championship game against Georgia, but I think they're trying to put together a bit of a run that Ohio State did back in 2014 of absolutely burying teams to try and get that resume up for the college football playoff. So Bama is going to cover comfortably, and also Auburn is just a dumpster fire of a program compared to what they've been.
Washington State at Washington. Washington 16.5.
Washington keeps eking it out. I think they played with they were missing their top 3 wide receivers last week or 2 weeks ago. I saw some stat like that. Washington State has more or less been in shambles since what's his name left, RIP. So give me Washington to beat them to death with the shovel.
Florida State at Florida. Florida State 6.5.
Florida State lost their quarterback to a very gruesome leg injury. Florida is almost a literal garbage fire. Florida State covers.
Notre Dame at Stanford. Notre Dame 25.5.
Oof. Battle of the academic schools. Notre Dame laid a stinker against Clemson, and then I haven't heard a damn thing about them. Stanford, I haven't really heard much of anything about them either. 25 is a lot for Notre Dame, I think, so Stanford covers.
Georgia at Georgia Tech. Georgia 24.5.
That's it. That's 2 very different programs. I know it's a big rivalry down there, but it's very much, I think that's going to turn into Big Brother, like taking little brother's hand and smacking little brother in the face, and why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? So Georgia covers easy.
Ohio State at Michigan. Michigan 3.5.
I think, man. So, since we last talked about it, let's see what happened. Connor Stallions fell on the sword, said it was all me, only me. And then Michigan was in a battle with the Big Ten before they're in a battle with the NCAA. They took the 3-game suspension for Harbaugh after they were presented with the evidence the NCAA has. So that tells me one of 2 things. Number 1, either the NCAA has what amounts to an airtight case against them, and they're just hoping to lessen the punishment. Or they're thinking, hey, we can eke these out, and then when the NCAA tries to come in and punish us, maybe we can try and get some court case about double jeopardy. You can't punish us twice for the same thing type deal. I'd like to think it's that, because Michigan likes to think themselves so smart, but I think they got a pretty uphill battle in the courtroom here coming soon. All that being said, Ryan Day needs one, and he needs one bad. And how much... It's weird to say, Ryan Day's lost, 4 or 5 games in his tenure as an Ohio State head coach?
Yeah.
And all but 2 of them have been in the playoffs, and the 2 that he lost have been against Michigan. I'm not saying Ryan Day is Paul Brown, but it is a very similar situation to Paul Brown's early career here at Massillon of Paul Brown was just dominating week 1 through 9, and then he could never do it against McKinley, and he was on the hot seat. He almost got fired. Looking at a blind resume, it's laughable to say Ryan Day's on the hot seat, but this is the game. This is what happens when you have, a lunatic fan base like Ohio State, like Michigan. It's what makes football fun, and I love it. So all that being said, Ryan Day needs this bad. I think they're going to pull it out. I like Ohio State outright.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that. I haven't really been watching much of Michigan, but I mean, I saw that their offensive line has not been performing great the last couple of weeks, and they've kind of completely abandoned throwing the ball the last few weeks. So the team has definitely changed since this all came out. They have since fired their co-defensive coordinator or their linebackers coach. Maybe one and the same. Yeah, they got a lot going on. Harbaugh's not going to be there, but he's not going to be there for the game, but he's going to be there all week. So I really don't know how big of a difference that makes to affecting the game. But yeah, like you said, I think Ohio State really needs one, and we're playing pretty decent right now. It's still not the same offense we've had in years past, but we're not relying on the offense like we have in years past. So I agree. I kind of like Ohio State outright. And then the only one remaining is the Massillon game, if you want to try to guess that. And if you happen to know what it was on Reflog, I'd be interested in that.
So Reflog had us minus 20.5.
Okay.
So with that, I think this is going to have us minus 24.5.
So if I remember correctly, the mathematician's estimate was Massillon 20.5, something like that. This one is Massillon 17.5.
Really? Well, I mean, I can see this team keeping it close just by the nature of their offense, putting up a lot of points. Our defense hasn't played an offense quite like this, but their offense hasn't played a defense like ours either. I think every team comes in and they just run into a brick wall. You saw Green come in, high-flying offense, 5 wide, this and that, and they could barely muster 50 yards of offense against our first-string defense. So I think it's going to be tough sledding for them pretty much all night. They might break a big one or two here, but unless they get a lot on their side, I don't see them putting together drive after drive after drive. That being said, I think our offense, I forgot to bring this up earlier, is going to have to play the most complimentary football that they have ever played in their lives. Part of that slowing down the opposing offense and giving your defense a break is going to be putting together long 10, 12, 14 play drives of just 3 or 4 yard gains. I think by nature of that, we might not be taking many shots. Obviously, you want to take shots where you can. You want to try and put up points wherever the defense is giving it to you. But I think we might be a little more big play averse in the play calling specifically against this team more so than anyone else, just for the sake of giving our defense a breather, letting them settle in, catch your breath, get some water in you. So I don't necessarily see us scoring a lot of points if we don't have to. If we can kind of take over the game comfortably, we're not going to be chasing a lot of points here. It's going to be, if we could win, 17-0, I think we'd be just fine with that. That being said, 17 is not much points considering our offense and our defense, so I think in this Maslin covers comfortably.
Sounds good.
So with that, I think we had one fan question this week. Rob, you want to hop in there?
Let me check. I might not even be able to find it. There's so much stuff in here since then.
I can. Okay, so we'll put it, change it. We'll flip it on its head.
I got it.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
No, but is this the best Tiger team you've ever seen? Why and why not?
I can comfortably say this is the best defense I've ever seen. This might be the best high school defense I've ever seen in my life. The only ones I'd put up there are Hoban in 2020 and Winton Woods in 17. But this is easily the best Maslin defense I've ever seen. Offense, I would say they're comparable just in like big playability and the ability to run the ball to our 2018 offense, but stylistically it's very different. We don't have Aiden Longwell back there slinging it to a bunch of future D1 receivers. We have just a dynamic quarterback who, the more you have the ball in his hand, the more good stuff happens. So I don't want to say this is the best. It's hard to say this is the best offense I've ever seen, but I think overall this might be the best Tiger team I've seen that I can remember.
Yeah, so it's a pretty easy answer for me. And the answer is going to be no. It's not. Solely because I will never, ever say that our current team is the best team I've ever seen. It just doesn't work like that. I mean, the best team is always a past team. It's never the current team. That's not how things work. You can never be the best now. 5 years from now, you go, oh, yeah, that was the best team. So I'm never going to say that a current team is the best. I think our defense is outstanding. I think our offense gets the job done in a completely different way than, some of our best offenses have in the past. But it's just tough for me because, we do play a good schedule. I mean, that St. John's team was good. Obviously, St. Ed's is good. But I just feel like football is down in general over the last 5, 10, 15 years. And it's hard for me to compare it because, I remember watching, Justin Swick and Devin Jordan and Sean Crable go against Ignatius in their heyday and going against McKinley teams that were actually good at football. It wasn't playing green for a regional championship, so it's just a different beast. And, different eras, decades have, it's hard to compare them in general, but I'm never going to say that a current anything is the best that I've ever seen. So the answer is no. Ask me again in a couple of years, and my answer might be yes. But right now, no.
Well, that's a very logical, well thought out answer. But those aren't fun in a question like this. And I'm pretty sure I just discovered why you're an MJ over LeBron guy, too. Because LeBron is still playing, and you refuse to call a current player the best that ever was.
I mean, that's part of it. I mean, also, there's a lot of reasons of why you could say MJ was better. But
well, yeah, MJ was also playing against a bunch of plumbers and electricians out there.
Yeah, sure he was.
I know, it's different decades, it's different eras, it's different play styles, but you got to play the teams you play. It is what it is. So if I were to give a real, honest, genuine, 100% answer, it would probably look a lot more like yours, but I'm trying to have a little fun here, so I'm going to go ahead and say yes so far. Now, if they go out and do the damn thing, I think it's going to be hard to argue otherwise, but it is what it is. So with that, I did want to talk about one more thing. We put out a little turkey cook-off video earlier this week. I kind of want to talk about the making it and also the content and how that all went. So obviously we had a turkey cook-off, Rob versus Jim. We'll put the link to that video in the description for this below. And, subscribe, rate, review, hit that bell, all that jazz. But fun video. People should go check it out. Also, Rob gives a very, very, very in-depth guide into how to make a very good Thanksgiving turkey. So we'll just go into how the actual birds themselves first. Rob, how did you think your turkey turned out? Jim's, all that. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, so as the results kind of showed, I think that the way that I seasoned my turkey and the way I injected it, I ended up having pockets of seasoning. So it wasn't completely dispersed as well as I would have liked. So you could have one bite that was a little heavier in seasoning, another bite that wasn't. So the pieces that I had weren't that overly seasoned, but there was a few bites that other people had where they thought it was really heavily seasoned. Now, part of that is also going to be preference. I mean, I think when Liz picked up a piece and said she didn't like it before she even tasted it, that was just preference on her part. I don't think that was really an accurate description of my bird, but I think I could have made it more well balanced, the seasoning, and evenly distributed a little bit better than I did. So I think Jim just didn't put as much effort into his as he normally does, which hurt it. He tried to cheat a little bit by just using pickle juice, which works really well as a brine. It added some decent flavor, but that's pretty much all he had going for it. So his wasn't quite as juicy. I think my turkey cooked a little bit longer than I would have liked. We kind of got caught up. I checked it at one point, and it was at like 130 something, and Jim's was just slightly higher than mine. And then we were messing around in the garage, messing with the golf simulator, and the next thing I know, Jim's like, yours is probably overcooked. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, it's already like at 166 or something. And I was like, damn it. Yeah, I didn't want it to stay on the smoker that long. So I think the result still came out perfectly fine. I would have pulled it earlier than that, but his was equally cooked over. So, I think it's a fair competition between the two of us, but I wish the setting would have been a little bit different to where we could have explained what we did a little bit better. Why we put it on the smoker the way we did, what kind of smoke we were using, how to set up a fryer, why to put it in a specific way, what temperatures we were looking for. But all that's just kind of mixed into a montage because we didn't get to really talk into the microphone as much on Saturday. So two completely different things of my prep work, probably over detailed. And then once we get to Saturday, it's essentially just a montage until the judges start talking about it. But I think it came out pretty well still, so I was happy about it. I think you did a pretty good job editing it, added in a few cool little things that I wouldn't have thought of. So I thought it went pretty well. Excited for next year, hoping we can make it a larger thing. Maybe get some more people in there so it's not just me and Jim, and have some fun with it.
Yeah, just to the turkeys themselves, Jim did a really good job. He always does. But I thought I almost started pissing myself laughing while editing it because when you made your how-to video, I hadn't seen that until the competition was over. You did all that stuff on, like Thursday night beforehand. And, I know Jim puts a lot of effort into his bird, and it's something he takes a lot of pride in. He's just a good cook in general. I don't want to take any of that away from him. And then on Saturday, hey, how'd you make the bird? Pickle juice. Okay. What seasoning you use? Bought it from Amazon. Okay. And it's still a good bird, but it just didn't really steal the show. Yeah, yours extremely inconsistent as far as flavor in there goes. I think, you could see it in the video, but it's the first bite, that flavor or the seasoning just hit me in the mouth. It was extremely seasoned up, a little more spicy than I'd care for in a Thanksgiving bird. And that second piece I bought that I ate that turned my vote, it was definitely like a lot more subtle. You got a lot more of the bird coming through. But overall, both birds were phenomenal. So in that, like you said, it's two very different vibes of videos. The first 38 minutes is you just, like you said, overly explaining how to cook the bird and all the prep work that goes into it, the brine, everything. The second part is just an absolute shit show, which I think was a lot more due to the environment we were recording in. It's stuff we can clean up later. We can figure out how we want to do this. But when we were talking about it, after you got it all done, I remember you told me thinking, that's going to be like 10, 15 minutes. And it comes out to well over half an hour. So while you were watching that, what in God's name made you think that was going to be 10 minutes of how-to?
Yeah, I mean, I may have exaggerated a little bit, but I mean, I watched it a couple of times, like back to back, the raw footage. It didn't seem like it was that long, so whatever, like 30 minutes of prep work. I mean, it took me a couple hours to record it, so.
Yeah, there was a lot there. Honestly, it was really fun putting it together. I haven't done like any sort of long form editing like that since Telepro in high school. I mean, as far as like editing this podcast together goes, it's more or less like a one take for each segment, and all I have to do is find the start, find the end, throw it together, we're good to go. It takes me half an hour. This one took me well over 15 hours of editing to do. But it actually like flew by. So it was really fun on my end. It was fun getting to play around with stuff, adding stuff in, stealing ideas from other YouTube videos. But when we were texting about it and I was telling you all this little shit and getting your opinions on the video, I had this weird thought in my head, like, that conversation seemed to go weird. And I looked back, and I do want to say, when I was asking for your thoughts and opinions on it, I was not fishing for compliments, because when I read it back, that is exactly how it came across to me. I just like, it was like, that was walking away from one of those social situations, and it's like, oh man, I really could have played that one better. But no, it was fun. It was fun finding a little shit in there that I could like, throw in just for my own sake and making it more entertaining for me. And just, I don't know, getting to do stuff like that, it's a good time. So, Rob, start thinking of other stuff you want to do like that. Audience, look for other long-form content we may play around with ideas of that, put together shit like that. But, if you want to learn how to cook the perfect Thanksgiving bird, I know it's a little late in the season for that, but just how to cook a good turkey in general, go watch that video. Very informative. And then the second half is just very, entertainment value in and of itself. So that's all I got on that one. Rob, you got anything else tonight?
Nope.
All right. So with that, coming into the Final Four, let's just go out and do the damn thing, huh? Go Tigers. Beat the Raptors.
Go Tigers.
They want to hear the Thanksgiving song. All right. This is a Thanksgiving song. I hope you enjoy it. Love to eat turkey. Love to eat turkey. Oh, I love you. Love to eat turkey, 'cause it's good. Love to eat turkey like a good boy should, 'cause it's turkey to eat. So good. That clapping's messing my head up, man. I appreciate it, but I was trying to think of the next line. I'm like, all I hear is clapping. Here we go. Thanks anyways. Turkey for me, turkey for you. Let's eat the turkey in my big brown shoe. Love to eat the turkey at the table. I once saw a movie with Betty Grable. Eat that turkey all night long. 50 million Elvis fans can't be wrong. Turkey lurkey do and turkey lurkey dap. I eat that turkey, then I take a nap. Thanksgiving is a special night. Jimmy Walker used to say dynamite. That's right. Turkey with gravy and cranberry. Can't believe the Mets traded Darryl Strawberry. Turkey for you and turkey for me. Can't believe Tyson gave that girl VD. White meat, dark meat, you just can't lose. I fell off my moped and I got a bruise. Turkey in the oven and the buns in the toaster. I'll never take down my Cheryl Teagues poster. Wrap the turkey up in aluminum foil. My brother likes to masturbate with baby oil. Turkey and sweet potato pie. Sammy Davis Jr. only had one eye. Oh, turkey for the girls and turkey for the boys. My favorite kind of pants are corduroys. Gobble, gobble, goo, and gobble, gobble, giggle. I wish turkey only cost a nickel. Oh, I love turkey on Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.